Hi everyone. I wanted to start working on my faux leather little booklets like this. They just have blank pages, blank coffee dyed pages inside. It's craft paper that's been embossed. There's fabric on the inside. And I actually just ran these through with my sewing machine because I'm making up so many of them. I wanted to make sure I didn't have to sew them all in with the by hand. So and they're good and sturdy too. So so it's really easy. This is just regular craft card stock. It's a little on the lighter side than what I normally buy, but it still works. And you can see that, you know, it's very leathery and pliable, and it's really cool. So the first thing that you need is glycerin. Now, I got this at Rite Aid. This is hard to find. Walgreens said they used to carry it. They don't carry it anymore. At least my Walgreens doesn't. Most people that I've seen on the videos, I don't know how old the videos are, but they'll say it's only a couple bucks. This was $7 for 6 ounces. Now, granted, this will last me for a long time, but it's in with the bandages and such, and I usually find it on the bottom shelf, at least at Rite Aid. If you can't find it, ask the pharmacist. But anyway, yeah, I have one of these little travel size bottles that I got from, you know, they come 3 in a pack in the travel section. So I want to say this is like a 3-ounce bottle because that's the limit on the travel size. And I put about 1/4 inch in the bottom, which I believe is probably equivalent to about a tablespoon of glycerin, and then I will put water to the top, and then just kind of mix it up. You can shake it, it doesn't really matter either way. But then all you do is spray your cardstock and then kind of rub it in a little bit. You don't want to rub too hard, otherwise the fibers will roll up on the paper. I mean, it is paper after all. But the water helps the glycerin travel into the paper and kind of break down the fibers so that it's nice and soft and pliable. And you can see that paper just sucks that right up. So I'm going to flip it over, do the same. And it may seem like it's too wet, but all of a sudden you'll notice that the water has been absorbed. So I just rub that in. And then I'll usually repeat it one more time. You can see that it's kind of soft and flimsy, but right now I feel like if I tried to crumple it up, that it could tear around the edges, and I don't want any tearing. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. And I do have water around here or on my mat, but it will be absorbed shortly. Yeah, you can feel it starts to dry in certain places really quickly. So yeah. Okay, so then you just want to crumble it very carefully. You don't want any ripped, and especially when you're opening it back up, you want to be careful. I can feel it start to dry in my hands because well, probably my hands are absorbing some of the moisture as well, but that paper is still wicking in the moisture. So I will use this to clean up the moisture in my mat. and look at it and see if there's any places where I want a few more crinkles, and especially on the outside it seems like there will be big places, and then I will crumple it up again. Just like that, and you can see how squishy it is. And open it out again. There we go. Now my mat is pretty much dry, and all of that is absorbed into here. Alright, so now I am going to let this dry for a few minutes, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just hit this with my heat tool. It takes about an hour if you just leave it to dry, if you don't want to use your heat tool. If you let it dry naturally though, it can curl up a little bit more. But yeah, it'll be fine. So I've got 3 colors of ink. I've got a dark brown, I've got a medium brown, and I have an orangey color. We're going to use a combination of these. I'm going to take the medium brown though first, and I'm just going to rub it over these raised places. Hopefully you can see that where it's raised. You can see it's getting that leathery look. I'll do it on both sides because I'm not sure which side I want to use yet. And sometimes, you know, you get the mountains and valleys. Sometimes this side will look better than this side. So depending on what look you're going for. So I go ahead and do both sides. Now I will tell you, if you do this when it's wet, it will just absorb right into the paper, and it will you know, spread out a little bit because I'm going to add some more spray. But I did it when it was wet and then waited for it to dry the next day, and when I came back there was no color at all. So, but this for some reason doing it while it's dry works a little bit better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with, I'm just going to make sure that the ink is mostly dry on there. And these are dye-based inks, so you know, they're water-based. I am going to hit it with a little bit more of the glycerin water mix. And that will help wick some of that ink, but it won't be completely like the first time I did it. And I'm just going to let that sit for a second, and I'm going to look and see if I need to add any more, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this through my embossing machine. I have a Gemini, and the first one I did, I ran through the Gemini. They said use the plastic shim, and it was way too much, so I did not use the plastic shim. If you have a Gemini, I used the clear plate, I used the embossing mat, I put this in the embossing folder on top, and I used the other clear plate. No plastic shim, otherwise it gets stuck and it just stretches out your embossing mat. So, alright, I'm going to crumple that up just a little bit more, get some extra, clean up my moisture, and some of that ink will wick through. There we go. Alright, so I am going to go run this through my embossing machine and let that dry, and then I will be back and show you what that looks like. Okay, I am back. I have run this through my embossing machine. Be aware this method does cause the paper to shrink, and you can see, I don't know if it's distorted or not, but the place, it was damp when I ran it through the embosser, so a little liquid comes out. Make sure you clean your mats and everything, but it's flatter where the embossing folder was, and the part that didn't have the embossing folder is still kind of shrunken. So it's almost like an eighth of an inch, maybe a quarter of an inch. No, 16th to an eighth of an inch different. So not a huge amount. I can trim it. So you probably can't see the embossing, but I'm going to fix that. You can still see where we used the ink. I'm going to use some of this darker chocolate, and I'm just going to start to put some darker areas in here, just kind of randomly. You'll start to see the design come out there. I don't want it to be organized by any means. Cowhide is random. So I'm just going to put some of that darker area in here and there. Okay, and then we'll be using that again. I want to, I think I'll take some of this medium. This is the desert sand color, and I'm just going to begin to work this in. And I did dry this off with my heat tool. It doesn't take that long to dry, because once you run it through the embosser, it's kind of squeezes out some of that excess moisture. So I'm just going in little circles. You can already start to see the leathery effect, and you still have those lines in the background that we did the first time. You wouldn't have to do that if you just wanted the design and you didn't want the extra lines. Just leave that part out. Okay, now what I'm going to do is use some of this Gold Rush, and what this will do is bring some warmth into it. I don't know if it's a discernible change on camera, but I can see it instantly really liven that up and brighten the color. It goes from drab to fab. Okay, I want to get some of that over here. Don't need a ton of it, just in the lighter areas. It's where I kind of focus, when I see some areas of light. Let's see, a little bit here, a little more here. And you can go back in and do a little bit here, a little bit there, as much as you want. Oops. Whatever pleases you. I sometimes will go in fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I go back in with the chocolate and just go over the top, just to bring out some more of that embossing and some of the nature of the leather, if you will. Okay, now let me get my baby wipes, not as wet as it was. I'll come back and do that. So now what I'll do is let this dry, or dry it with my heat tool, and then I will come back and add the Mod Podge. I'm not going to show you how to do the Mod Podge. It's not that difficult. You brush it on. And what I've done is I have a little paper towel rack at my desk that I was using for washi tape. I'm going to fold this in half. I was using it for washi tape, and it wasn't really practical because I had to take it apart every time I wanted to use washi tape. So I have a few tapes there that I don't use very often, but I hung this over the little dowel. So now granted, you want to let it dry and then do the Mod Podge. And I use the matte finish, not the glossy. You can also as well take this outside and just spray a coat of shellac. Shellac will also work. But anyway, then you want to let that dry, and then you will end up with, I'm going to put this one on the rack to dry, and I've got this. And I don't know if you can see the shiny, even though it's matte finish Mod Podge, it still leaves kind of a shiny finish. But this is pretty much ready to go. It's bendable, and yeah, it's ready. So what I want to do is get a piece of fabric, and I want to attach a piece of fabric to the inside of this. And what that's going to do is give me a little bit more substantialness, and also it's going to give me some strength for the spine where I'm sewing. So I am going to grab a piece of fabric, and I will be right back. Okay, so I found this lovely coffee bean fabric, and that is what I'm going to use on the back of this. So what I use to attach it is tacky glue, and I just put a bunch on there, and then I'll brush it with a foam brush because I want to make sure it's got good coverage. Get in those little recessed areas. Okay, I'm going to pull that over here and just wipe this up real quick. Let me get a wetter wipe. It wouldn't make a big difference if it got on the front because I already Mod Podged it. But basically, I just don't want it wet. Okay, so I'm going to take and apply this coffee fabric, and I'm going to use the brayer, which will give me some really good contact. Good. Okay, now I'm going to turn it around this way, roll this back, and I'm going to pull a little extra back so I know I've got that whole area covered, and repeat. You want to make sure that you get enough glue for this. By the way, I need to mention that this was not my idea. I first saw this on Sheena Douglas's YouTube channel, and then I also have seen Izzy B's channel doing it. So there's lots of videos out there with this technique. It's not new, but yeah, it does come in handy for quite a few things. I used this on my album for my 25th anniversary when we went on our Alaska cruise, and I had quite a few people asking me, can you do a video how you do that? And so I told them where to find the video, but if you want to see that, that was my first video, actually, was that album. Okay, so I got that cleaned up, and I want to lay this over. And then again, I'm going to use the brayer. The brayer just helps everything. I think there must be a little bit of tackiness on this brayer because the glue does seep slightly into the fabric, and yeah, so the brayer's a little tacky, but I want to make sure that that is good and dry. Just like that. Okay, now I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come back and trim around the edges. Okay, so I think it's dry enough. It's been about 10 minutes, and so I'm just going to trim around the edge. I didn't do that very well. It's a little wobbly. If you could use a little bit stiffer fabric or a little bit stiffer card stock. You're gonna have the first time I did this, I used some 12 by 12 craft card that I ordered on Amazon, and it worked out really well. And like I said, this is working fine. It's just not as thick as the cardstock I used last time. Oops. I don't know if you guys are seeing that or not. Okay. There we go. So we've got the fabric on the inside. Now you can choose if you want to, this will be the front, to round the corners like I did on this one, but you don't have to round the corners. I tried leaving the paper with the square corners and just rounding the book, but I like it either rounded all the way or square all the way. So basically all I'm going to do now is the cover's ready. I'm going to fold it and make sure that it's pretty even. That looks good. Got a little piece I need to trim on this right here on the edge. And these were my sewing scissors, but they don't cut great for quilting anymore, so that's why they made it to my craft desk. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So now what I'll do is, remember we talked about it shrinking. Let me find my ruler here. Hello? Oh, it's over here. This was 8.5 by 11 cut in half, so it was 8.5 by 5.5, and now it is 8 3/8 by 5 5/8. So you want to cut your paper about, depending on how much of a margin that you would like around. I'll usually cut my paper about 3/8 smaller, so I'll probably do 5 1/4 by 8. Yeah, 5 1/4 by 8. And then I will fold all those in half, and then I will sew them in. And that's all I've done here. I would not go more than 12 pages if you're going to sew them with the machine. If you want more pages, then go ahead and sew in by hand like we do with our regular journals. But yeah, I hope you try this, it's a lot of fun. I've got about 6 more to make, and these will be for my craft fair. And I'm not doing anything else to the pages. I'm not putting in pockets. I'm not putting in anything. Just, I wanted these to be just plain naked. Nothing on them. Just stark naked. So, anyway, tomorrow is our drawing for our free giveaway. So, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.